Welcome to Chapter 13, Problem 10, Portion A, or Part A. In this case, I'm going to present it a little bit differently. You've seen this in the Word document as far as the calculation of the numbers, so I'm simply showing you how to do this in Excel. So in this case, you've got your level of production of $1,300 a month. The demands entered, initial inventory of 300 units, subcontracting $60 a unit, holding costs of $25 a unit. Because we're looking for the extra cost, we don't have to include the regular time because that doesn't change. So we're looking for the incremental cost, not the total. So in this particular case, it already calculates your inventory for you, your holding costs, etc. Now to get the subcontracting portion, I just typed in the 400 as you can see on the screen, but the proper formula would actually be you take the previous inventory, you add the production, all right, that would give you 1,400, and you need to actually take the 1,800 and subtract that. And you can just type it in, or you can enter the formula, whichever you prefer. So you wind up with 400 units. So it's previous inventory from the end of September, beginning of October, plus production, and you subtract that from the demand. And you're going to have 400 units subcontracting. You wind up with the 92,000. Now, moving on to Part B, which I've already pre-done, you're going to have to enter the overtime rate because now you're going to have some overtime, and the subcontracting, holding, and the lost sales are $60. So in this particular case, I'm going to enter this as a formula. Wherever I need the overtime, I'm going to take the 1,300 multiplied by 1.2. So I just copy, multiplied by 0.2. I just copied the previous problem. So I'm going to take out the subcontracting here for a second. So to get the subcontracting, I'm going to take the 1,800. I'm going to subtract the ending inventory from September. I'm going to subtract the production from October, and I'm going to subtract the production of overtime for October. And I wind up with 140 units. I can now copy that down, and I get 40 units. But I need to modify something. What I need to modify, the software doesn't automatically do that idle time. So we didn't actually make 1,300 units in June. What happened was we had 300 left over. So we could make 1,300, but we didn't. And the 300, if you want, there's two ways to do this, and I'll show you both. I could start off with an initial inventory of 180 up here rather than the 300, or if I want to leave it as 300. The simplest way I find, you may find it differently, is this. The maximum inventory you can have is 180. So I simply type in the 180 here. You can see that in July, if you make the maximum, if you make 1,300 units, you only sell 12, you're going to have 280. That's incorrect. Then 180 in this particular case. So you have the inventory here. Now you can see we'd have a shortfall in September. So I'm actually going to copy this. I'm going to copy this up. It solves our shortage. All right. So I should have started in September, but I started in October, but it doesn't matter. Just doing a draft version of it. Now you might notice, and you have noticed, that the number doesn't match. The 68,600 does not match the 81,800 from the problem that was presented in Word. What you need to do, because the software doesn't actually calculate this, the idle time, all right, you have 120 plus 100 units of idle time. You look at the Word document, it might be more clear. In this particular case, the idle time, which I put as lost sales, so I'm just going to do this. I'm going to take the lost sales. It's not really lost sales, but you get $13,200. This is actually idle time. And then you're going to take the 68,600 and you're going to add the idle time. And then you get the cost. This one's a little more challenging. Software doesn't calculate it directly. It gives you close to the answer. And you don't have to put in the lost sales by 60 up at the top. You can just simply type that in, but you're going to have to add the idle time because the software does not automatically calculate that like you're used to in some of the other problems. So I strongly encourage you to watch the Word document before you do this. I just simply took the information from the Word document and replicated it in Excel. But it's not like some of the software you used to where you just put the numbers in and it calculates all the answers, or even in part A, it did. All we had to do was calculate the subcontracting portion and put in that formula. So that was pretty simple. But in part B, it becomes more challenging to calculate the fact that the maximum inventory is 180. And then we have idle, which is the difference between the 1,300 and the 1,000. All right. So in that particular case, so 1,000 plus 180 is 1,180, and minus the 1,300 is 180 units of extra inventory, or sorry, idle time. My apologies. So here, let me write that out. So in this month, the maximum inventory is 180. In this case, you would only produce, because you're already at the max, produce 1,000 units. So that is a total of 1,180. And then you would have idle capacity, which would be the 1,300 minus this. You have 180 units of idle time, and you do the same math for July. So hopefully that makes it a little more clear, and maybe you don't have to watch the Word document, but I would strongly encourage you to do that.